I'm the Staff Sergeant of the Calgary Police Service Homicide Unit. Today I have Today I have Detective Inspector Chris Gilpin from the Ontario Provincial Police with me.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Detective Inspector Chris Gilpin of the Ontario Provincial Police Criminal Investigations Branch. I'm case manager for this investigation regarding Kera Freeland's death. Kera Freeland's body was discovered in a ditch on Heart Lake Road in the town of Caledon on March 17, 2011. Her death was treated as suspicious at the time and has since been determined to be a homicide. Ms. Freeland was last seen in Toronto on January 16, 2011, and based on medical evidence obtained from the autopsy, it has been determined that she died around the time of her disappearance. At the time of her disappearance, Kera was living in an apartment on Lakeshore Boulevard West in downtown Toronto. As a result of the ongoing investigation, detectives from the Caledon Detachment of the Ontario Provincial Police Crime Unit, with the assistance of the Calgary Police Service, have arrested a male party in this homicide. Christopher Andronakos, age 35, of Calgary, Alberta, has been arrested. On Wednesday, January the 30th, Ms. Freeland's ex-roommate from her Toronto address, as I mentioned, 35-year-old Christopher Andronakos, who now lives in Calgary, was arrested without incident and has been charged with second-degree murder in connection with her death. Mr. Andronakos appeared before a Justice of the Peace in Calgary today and will be returned to Ontario. Investigators with the Ontario Provincial Police are continuing their investigation in Calgary in cooperation with the Calgary Police Service. The OPP wishes to thank the Calgary Police Service for its assistance and ongoing assistance, and Mr. Andronakos was arrested without incident. I can take any questions.
Where was he arrested? Where was he arrested?
He was arrested in Calgary.
But like at a home, at a place of business, or?
Actually, Grant, if you could answer that.
He was arrested at Glenmore Landing yesterday after, I think late yesterday morning at approximately 11:30.
Is he aware of the plan?
No, it was not.
Is he aware?
At the Starbucks.
How long has he been a suspect?
That forms part of our investigation, and that's something that we generally do not divulge. It's a complex investigation, and people become involved as witnesses and persons of interest throughout the investigation, and it becomes part of our investigative process.
What was Ms. Freeland's cause of death?
That's another piece of evidence that's part of the investigation that's ongoing, and we are not releasing that at this time.
Do you know when he came here?
Mr. Andronakos traveled to Calgary sometime last year.
So did they have, because they were both from Calgary at one point, did they have a pre-existing relationship here and then reconnected in Ontario, or do you know that?
I won't comment too much on that, as part of that is evidentiary. However, Mr. Andronakos was originally from Toronto, Ontario. He has traveled back and forth from Toronto to Calgary and back. But Ms. Freeland was from Calgary, and she traveled to Toronto, and there was no previous relationship until that time.
Were they, I know you characterized it as an ex-roommate, but were they romantically involved? Were they dating?
No, they were not.
Ms. Freeland's friends say she was pregnant at the time of her death. Is that your understanding as well?
Yes, it is. That's been confirmed.
And is the father of the child known?
He is known.
It's not the suspect?
It is not. How far along was she? That also forms part of the evidence, so I hesitate to comment on that. Early stages is about as much as I would like to say.
Oh.
You know, because some people say she was troubled or may have led a high-risk lifestyle. I mean, I think perhaps, I'm speaking with some social service agencies, they're very encouraged by the fact that, she didn't become a statistic, that this was still an active investigation, and that you guys have kind of stayed with it, pursued it. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Kera Freeland is definitely a victim of this crime. Her lifestyle was what it was. However, it did not form part of this homicide investigation. And we will investigate every case of a homicide or any other victimization, regardless of the status of the victim.
Was her pregnancy connected to the motive behind her death?
No, it was not.
Can you say what the suspect was doing in Calgary? Or work?
We're still conducting that part of the investigation.
Are you releasing where she was murdered? Like the location, like was it in the apartment they shared or elsewhere?
That still forms part of the investigation as well.
And sorry, so just to clarify, they were living together at the time she disappeared?
Yes, they were. They've been living together for approximately 6 weeks.
And they didn't know each other previous to that?
No.
Can you say where they met?
It was, there was a referral through a friend for a place for Kera to stay when she traveled to Toronto.
So this was his primary residence and she moved in?
That's correct.
Was he involved in the same lifestyle?
Mr. Andronakos is known to the local authorities in Toronto, but no, he was not involved.
So he wasn't her pimp or however you want to characterize it?
No,
He wasn't involved in her being involved in a lifestyle?
no.
So they just were roommates, that's it?
Pretty much.
I mean, at the time of her death, had she been still active in this lifestyle? I mean, I know that I've read reports she was said she was a former escort and things like that. Was she still kind of immersed in that at the time of her?
Kera had been working for an escort agency in Toronto, and she had stopped working for a period of time prior to her death for health reasons. Her death is not connected in any way to her escort lifestyle business.
Is that because she's pregnant?
That's part of the reason.
She's seeking cancer treatment as well, is that right?
There's some indication of that, yes.
Any more questions?
But Detective Gilpin, could we get the spelling of the first and last names,
Yeah.
please, just for the record?
Of
First and last name?
Mine?
Yes, please.
Christine, Christine, Gilpin.
Thank you. And do you prefer Christine or Chris? You're introduced as Chris.
Either is fine.
How long were you guys tracking Mr.
That, again, is investigative. Tracking is not really a word I would use. We were well aware of who he was right from the initial portion of the investigation. He was her roommate, so we spoke to him immediately. That's not to say that I'm commenting as to when he became a suspect or person of interest, but that is when we first had contact with him, when she was found.
Was he forthright or helpful, I guess, at the time?
Again, that's not something that I can divulge.
And did he just disappear after that? Like, you were interviewing him right after he was, and then all of a sudden he took off? And is that what happened? Or?
No, not all of a sudden. He was, the investigation began in March of 2011, and he moved to Calgary sometime in 2012.
So it was just fresh, new evidence